to this. Okay, well, Stephen answers your question. We are recording this session. That's fantastic. That's good to know. Okay, so welcome everybody to this COP26 Simulation Session. My name is Mark. I'm a member of Students for Global Health, and we've been working with the amazing Cami and Gerimis to bring you this, this project. So I'm just going to take you through the overview of today's session. So we're going to begin with hearing from Cami and the Weaving Hopes project to understand who they are and why we're doing this work that we are doing. Then I'm going to lead a discussion on what is climate governance and introducing you all to COP26. And then we'll have 10 minutes going over the simulation and how that's going to work. And then from around 20 to 4 to the end of the session, we're going to be in breakout rooms, preparing statements and running through a simulation, discussing key topics as they would be discussing at COP in Glasgow this year. So I'm going to hand my screen over to Klima Action Malaysia and Weaving Hopes. So I will stop sharing. And
hi everyone. Thanks so much for making time tonight. Give me a second while I share my screen. Okay, so I'm basically going to okay, I hope that's clear. Right. I hope everyone can see this. So thank you so much for making time for tonight. Not only tonight, I think from the UK it's around 2 p.m. midday. And yeah, then again, I'm really looking forward to, listen and learn a lot from everyone tonight. So before we go through that side, maybe I should give like a very brief introduction about who Klima Action is, not who Klima Action is, sorry, what the Weaving Hopes for the future. Sorry, I've been like giving too many talks about Kami lately and just kind of came out. And so Weaving Hopes for the Future is basically a project to empower Indigenous community from Malaysia, youth and women, not from Malaysia, but specifically from Peninsular Malaysia, because we are not representing communities from Sabah and Sarawak. And at the same time, we are also learning a lot with regards to the organizing this project and the collaboration between Malaysia and UK. It's really tough with the different time zones and different level of understanding, but we have to start somewhere. So I'm really glad that we took the step to do this. So 3 organizations, we have Klima Action Malaysia, Students for Global Health, where Mark is from, and also Gerimis Project. So, all right. So moving on, I hope there's a bar over here that maybe hang on. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay, there you go. Right. Oops, sorry. Right. So the aim of the project is basically, the end goal is to, send different artworks from the Indigenous community. So there will be an art installation and a creative storytelling co-produced by all this amazing our Indigenous team. And actually, this is just the final part of the project that we envision in November. But right now, it's the process of doing it and all the learning process that goes in. The workshops that we did, climate and land rights with the community. It's quite it's quite a curve. All's been done in lockdowns and. But the Indigenous team are really, resilient in a way that they really want to do this, and they feel honored to represent Malaysia in COP. And I think in COP26 years, we have not have any Indigenous participation from Peninsular Malaysia, from Malaysia overall. So this would be the first. So the exhibition itself in COP. We will try, we aim to eliminate linkages between climate change and land rights. And with these two things being amplified, we hope to enable a knowledge exchange in decision-making spaces. As everyone know, this year, the COP this year is quite critical in the sense that there's a lot of, there's going to be agendas under the COP presidency on loss and damage, specifically for, countries like Malaysia, where we experience, damages and loss. So there's also the finance part of it. I think this is a really important scale, and especially coming during, it's actually happening during COVID. It makes it more critical. So, right, and yeah, we also hope to influence by the work that we do. We hope to influence the public perception on Indigenous plight and how global community are tied to these struggles, and how Indigenous empowerment is a key, is a really important aspects for climate solutions. So yeah, right. There's actually a whole lot of information that's been dumped into our social media, so please follow our social media. I try to be as brief as I can for this part, because we'll be like be really squeezed in. We have very limited time tonight. So at the moment as well, we are fundraising for the project, because we like to have that sort of contingency, because sending items, sending the art pieces to the UK at this time during the pandemic is quite tough. And we don't want to hit a wall, and but hence, therefore, we have the fundraising going up, and the funds it's already open 2 weeks ago, and we will collect funds. We will raise funding until November and end of the year. So yeah, really hoping that we will have a lot of support from people, not only from Malaysia, but also people from the UK and everywhere around the world. So this is our Simply Giving page. Just go to our Simply Giving, and yeah, donate as much as you can, or share the story to friends. Also, just wanted to share that this is where the money goes to, logistical part in the UK, some digital tools, equipment, and materials, and also exhibition setup and fees if needed be, because some of the exhibition spaces do not have setup and fees, and some does. So yeah. So this is also another the actual campaign that we are running. We will launch this in the next few days on August 9th. So hang on, I need to hide floating meeting controls. Yes, there you go. So this is basically a digital toolkit. If you donate £10 or around 50 ringgit, you will get a weaving digital toolkit to create this headgear called Tempo. And this is a specific headgear from the Jakun tribe. It's been designed by our Indigenous teammates in Rompin. And it's really interesting, and I really hope that everyone can at least have a go at this. I think partly because it gives you also a chance to display your artwork and video in Glasgow in November. So if you get this toolkit, you will read there's a lot of step-by-step how to do the tempo and how to send your item to the UK. So yeah, it's really interesting. Hang on. Right, so also another thing, why your support and solidarity matters. This is actually some of the words that we, collect from testimony from our friends. Direct translated to English, weaving is the process of combining, connecting one material to the other to form a strong structure. So in a way, weaving connects us all, everyone, allowing us to reach out to others and build partnerships for a better future. So weaving is a really interesting word that can be understood in so many different ways, that has a multi-layered understanding perspective towards it. So it's really interesting. If you guys would want to support us, please do register as a fundraiser for the Weaving Hopes project. We are also looking for volunteers for the project in Glasgow. We already have a team of UK students in Malaysian living in UK, and specifically in Glasgow and in Edinburgh to help us out. But we need more, more manpower. So looking forward to any kind of contribution from everyone here. So yeah, that's all from me. And before I go, I like to share you the fundraising page that one of our members here is doing to raise funds for this project. So this is Aru. Aru is also here. Maybe Aru wants to, maybe you want to, share about your page here, Aru.
Hi everyone. I just actually published this fundraising campaign just now. I didn't think Nadia would actually show it to everyone, but this is actually a campaign that is specifically targeted to my friends and to my family. I'm targeting 3,000 ringgit, and if I reach my target, I will shave all of my hair. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna release it maybe around tonight or tomorrow. But if you can also find it on the Simply Giving page. When you click the link, I sent it in the chat. When you scroll down a bit, you can see my campaign name, and then you can click on that. You can directly donate to the Weaving Hopes campaign, or you can donate to my campaign. So that would make it faster, and I can actually shave my head faster before the end of August. So if you're interested in that, that would be cool. Just something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and might as well do it since we're in a lockdown anyway. And yeah, you can support any of the campaigns, and you can also create your own campaign if you want. No problem. Maybe you want to dye your hair or whatever it is. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you. So that's all, guys, from kami signing off. Let's start with the workshop itself. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you guys so much. Arrow, very excited to see you with no hair. I have to say it's very convenient having no hair. I would recommend it to anyone. It's very fun. Yeah, and best of luck with the fundraiser. I'm going to share my screen again. And I've just copied the donation link again, so that will come up at the end of the session if you are still interested in donating. Okie dokie. So this first part of the session, I'm going to go over what is climate governance and introduce you all to COP26. I should just say I'm currently in a hotel with no Wi-Fi, so I'm hotspotting off my phone. So if at any point you can't hear me and I'm not sounding clear, let me know and I will try to do something about that. So do let me know if you can't hear me and if you'd like me to clarify anything. So I'm just going to begin by going over some definitions, which is always a fun way to start a session. So if we think about climate change as a long-term shift in average global weather patterns due to an increase in average temperature. So previously this was thought to be an idea that just happened naturally, and naturally it does happen over hundreds of thousands of years. However, what we have seen in the last few decades is a significant increase in average temperature very quickly. We now know that that is due to human factors, and through the emission of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, and through the loss of biodiversity, and through rapid urbanization, we are starting to see directly that this is something that humans are impacting on. And that brings us to the concept of climate justice, where climate change isn't a physical, environmental problem, it's actually a political and cultural problem caused by humans. Now that we know that climate change is caused by humans and caused by these political systems, we then know that humans can also be the solution to the problem. And that's where this idea of climate governance comes in, which is diplomacy, mechanisms, and response measures aimed at steering social systems towards preventing, mitigating, or adapting to the risks posed by climate change. which is a very wordy definition, and I apologize for that. But essentially, climate governance is the idea that together, nations and people can work to reduce the impacts of climate change and to reverse climate change. Now, on a global scale, this looks like this: the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. So in 2020, this had 197 signatories. 197 countries had signed up to this international treaty all about addressing climate change. The decision-making board meets every single year, and that is called the Conference of Parties, or COP. So later this year is COP26, the 26th meeting of all of these countries, which is happening in Glasgow in the UK, where some lovely artwork is being flown out from Malaysia if you donate to the fund. So previously at COP26, no, not COP26, previously at COPs, these are really high-level, high-profile events. And in the past, there have been COPs which could be seen as failures because not much has been agreed on. Then there have also been some really significant successes and really, really impressive progress that is achieved through having these COPs. So I'm going to take you through a few key ones. So 1997 was the Kyoto Protocol. And this was the first international legally binding climate change agreement. And this bound 38 countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And this was really groundbreaking at the time because it was the first legally binding action taken on a global scale to combat climate change. Then about 10 years later, the Copenhagen Accord was signed in 2009. This recognized climate change as a great threat and reinforced the Kyoto Protocol. However, it wasn't legally binding. So this was seen as not as successful as Kyoto Protocol, as countries weren't actually bound to the commitments that they had made. However, 6 years later in Paris, this all changed with the 2016 Paris Agreement, which I'm sure many of you will have heard of. So this was agreed at the 21st COP, and it was negotiated by 196 countries. So that's all countries bar one, to produce legally binding commitments to keep average global temperatures down below 2 degrees. And they also established enhanced transparency frameworks so that countries had to be honest about what they were doing. This was really, really groundbreaking, because to have almost every single country in the world legally bound to making a commitment to combating climate change was just a really exciting thing. Of course, since then, the USA, under leadership of Donald Trump, removed themselves from the Paris Agreement. But now under the Biden administration, the USA is back in the Paris Agreement, which is very good news for all of us who care about climate change. However, there is still lots to be done. And looking forward, we have lots of work to do as a global community. So greenhouse gas emissions have been increasing despite these measures. However, there are hopeful signs. There were global dips in CO2 emissions in COVID-19 during lockdowns. And now, as we move out of COVID-19 and look forward, there is real hope for change because we have shown that we can work on a global scale to combat these issues. So fingers crossed, looking forward, we're going to see further legally binding targets and more international cooperation. So just an introduction to COP26. I'm very sorry, I realize I've forgotten to fill in this slide about the Malaysian delegates. If anyone from Malaysia know who the Malaysian delegates are for COP26, please let me know, because I've realized I forgot to research that. But this is the 26th conference of the parties, which is being co-hosted by the UK and Italy, as it was meant to be hosted in the UK last year. The UK president on our side is Alok Sharma, and it will be hosted at the Events Arena in Glasgow in Scotland. And if anyone does know the name of the Malaysian COP26 president, please share it. I would love to know. Okie dokie. So why is it actually this important? Why is it important this year? These are just a few reasons that I could come up with, but there are many, many more. I think something really special this year is that youth engagement and engagement in general has been its highest ever. People are so aware of climate change. It's always in the media. People are talking about it. And we know that young people are really concerned about it. So I think for us as young people and students, it's really, really important for us to make sure our voices are heard. COVID-19 has also highlighted how globally vulnerable we are, but also how well we can work together to cooperate. And also this year, we've been seeing record temperatures, extreme weather events, and sea level rise. From a UK perspective as well, the UK government does need to appear fairly strong, as in a post-Brexit world, the country is very much looking towards building these treaties. So for anyone from the UK, it's important to put pressure on the UK government to look strong and to be a climate leader at these events. And then a final rather sad one is that very few countries are actually meeting the Paris Accord nationally determined contributions, which is their promise for how much carbon dioxide they will be reducing. And very few countries are actually keeping to that. So overall, there is really a need for urgent action at COP26. And this session will take us through what the process of COP26 will actually be like. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to take you through how COP26 discussions will run and explain how we are going to recreate and simulate COP26 for the rest of the session. So this is a definition from the UNFCCC on the aims of COPs. And it took me about 20 minutes to read and understand it because it's so full of kind of jargon and political talk. But essentially, the salient points are that every party, every country is represented at COP to discuss plans that they've implemented to combat climate change and to implement new plans. And the UNFCCC is a very complex organization which operates in almost every country in the world. However, for the purposes of today, we are going to be just talking about the parties, which are the countries and non-state actors who are big organizations not directly assigned to one country, such as UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund. Okie dokie. So for today, you will be taking on the roles of these delegates. So in groups of about 3 or 4, you will be assigned to a party or to a non-state actor. So parties are countries who have full voting and speaking rights. The goal of a party is to pursue their national interests. So for example, a country who, I'm just going to come up with this for the top of my head, a country who is very rich in oil would be keen to keep oil as key to that country's success. Non-state actors, or NSAs, which I'll call them for the rest of the session. So these are private sector entities, NGOs, or any other organization credited by the UNFCCC to participate in the meetings. So non-state actors have speaking rights. They can say whether or not they agree or disagree with the declaration, but they can't vote, importantly. And their goal is to pursue their organization's interests. So for example, UNICEF would support the health and safety of children and young people. So for today's simulation, each participant will be part of one of these delegations, representing a party or a non-state actor. Each delegation will be, I think, about 3 to 4 participants now, because we have so many people here. So thank you all very much for coming. The parties and non-state actors, we have 8 in total. So parties have speaking and voting rights. So the 5 parties we're going to be hearing from today are Malaysia, the UK, India, the USA, and the Philippines. And the non-state actors will be the IFMSA, which is the International Federation of Medical Students. I think I may have got that wrong. UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, and CAMI, so Klima Action Malaysia. If you don't know much about these countries or these non-state actors, that's totally fine. You're going to have a 15-minute session which I'll explain so you can research these countries and prepare a statement how you think they would care about these issues. So the way this simulation is going to run, we're actually running fairly on time, which is good. So we're going to begin with announcing what the declaration is. So this is a statement, a proposed plan for countries and non-state actors to discuss and to vote for at the end to see if this is something the country would be keen on, or that's something the country would not be interested in. So we're going to have 15 minutes for delegates to break out into breakout rooms to discuss the declaration and to prepare a statement. I will take you through how we're going to do that in the next few slides. We would then have our first plenary session where all of the delegates will read a statement discussing the declaration and their views on it. Then we will go away for a further 10 minutes where we will discuss in our breakout rooms all of the statements made by other people, then come back in and share secondary statements if we have any. So for example, if one country suggested an amendment in the first plenary session and another country agreed or disagreed with it, they could share that thought in the second plenary session. Then finally, at the end of the session, we will vote on the resolution and the declaration to see whether or not we think that the idea proposed is a good one. So I will now go through that in a bit more detail, and do let me know if you have questions at any point. So the first thing we'll be doing is discussing the prepared declaration. So just a reminder, parties or the countries have speaking and voting rights. So you'll be discussing the declaration, what is needed for you to agree, and if you think any changes are needed, proposing an amendment during your statement. Now, non-state actors, they only have speaking rights, so you won't be able to vote at the end of the session. And what you'll be able to do is just provide statements to say that you either support or you disagree with the declaration. You cannot propose an amendment, but you can propose how you think it could be changed, which then countries could act on to propose an amendment. In the first plenary session, party representatives will deliver a 1.5-minute statement. So that's 1.5 minutes from each of the countries discussing what you think of the declaration and what your thoughts are. And then non-state actors will deliver a 1-minute statement. So it's slightly shorter for the non-state actors. Then we will go back into our breakout rooms to discuss further statements. So you'll have 10 minutes to talk about what other people have said and prepare some secondary statements if you want to. If you feel that all the points have been covered and you don't have anything more to say, that is totally fine. At the second plenary session, parties and NSAs will have 1 minute each to present second statements. And then at the end, we will have a vote and a conclusion to see if this proposed declaration will be passed or not. Okie dokie. So in a few minutes, we will start the first session where we prepare our statements. So you'll have 15 minutes to do this. In the first plenary, parties will have 1.5 minutes to present a statement, and NSAs have 1 minute. So these statements are quite concise, and they're usually only around 100 to 130 words. They have to show the stance of your party or NSA on a topic, so whether you support it, whether you disagree with it. You can use this time to raise any concerns, raise important points, and include amendments. But this is only for the parties. So for example, so you can just propose any changes, which will then later be voted on to see if people want to include that in the overall declaration. And it will also include a call to action. It doesn't have to, but if you feel people need to be taking further or specific action, you're more than welcome to prepare that and add that to your statement. I should just say for each of the delegates, so each group will be about 3 to 4 people, but we would just ask that one person delivers the statement that you will work together to prepare. And don't worry if you feel you haven't prepared a perfect statement. We're all learning how to do this, and this is a rushed time to learn so much about a country and about a non-state actor. So even if you just have some thoughts, don't worry about it not sounding perfect. This is just a simulation for us to learn and to practice, so don't worry about being perfect. So in the way this is actually practically going to work, we have a chair has joined us from the IFMSA, who I'll introduce shortly, and we'll invite parties and NSAs to share their statements. While other parties are sharing their statements, please keep yourself on mute, just so that we can make sure that we hear everyone's coming across clearly. If you feel that you can't hear, or no, if you can't hear what is being said, please raise your hand and just let us know you can't hear, and we will try and sort that out for you. And if you feel that procedure is not being followed, also let us know. These are the exact same as they would work at COP26. People are able to make points of personal privilege, points of order, if they're struggling to hear or they feel people are misbehaving or acting in the way they shouldn't. So if you do feel that's happening, let us know, but I'm sure you're all lovely people and nothing like that will happen in this session. So I would like to introduce our chair, Mohamed Iassa. So I think Mohamed is in the room. If there he is, I will quickly just make him a co-host. And just, would you like to introduce yourself, Mohamed?
Yes, of course. So, hi everyone, this is Mohamed Iassa. I'm a 6th-year medical student from Egypt. I have been working with IFMSA for like the past 4 years on national, regional, and international levels, especially in the public health. My experience focuses mainly on universal health coverage, AMR, mental health, NCDs, climate change, etc. I'm currently serving as the Standing Committee on Public Health Capacity Building Development Assistant in IFMSA, and have been elected like 2 days ago as the Liaison Officer for Public Health Issues for the next term. So, and I'm very happy to be with you today to simulate one of the very most and thanks so much to Mark for inviting me for this.
No worries. Thank you so much for introducing yourself, Mohamed. So we are now very, very ready to get started. So my colleague Thiva has set up meeting breakout rooms for you all. So you'll be placed into either a party where you'll have 50 minutes to prepare a 1.5 minute statement about the proposed declaration, and non-state actors will have 1 minute to present a thoughts about the declaration. Once you are put into the breakout room, please could you change your name on Zoom, just so that it begins with either the party or the non-state actor's name. So for example, if I was placed in India, I would just change my name to India Mark Baker, just so that then allows us to work out where everyone is and make sure you get back into the right breakout room later on in the session. So, welcome to the COP26 simulation. The declaration we will be discussing today has been proposed by Germany and Canada. So on the 26th of July, 2021, last week, Germany and Canada had a discussion with the COP26 President, Alok Sharma. They agreed to take forward a plan mobilizing $100 billion annually from developed countries for climate change action in less economically developed countries. So today, in our roles as parties and non-state actors, we're going to be discussing this declaration for developed countries to provide $100 billion in aid to less economically developed countries to combat climate change and to allow climate action to happen. If you would like more information on this, I will copy and paste this link into the chat. So this is the declaration for today. In your roles, I want you to discuss and prepare statements on this declaration and your country's thoughts on it. So I think I will now ask Thiva to open the breakout rooms. Just a reminder, parties will have 1.5 minutes and NSAs will have 1 minute to present these statements. You have 50 minutes to prepare. So Thiva, are you happy to open the breakout rooms? I'm just getting a call from Thiva now just to talk about this. So bear with me for 1 second. Okay, Mohamed. I'm not sure if you can see the breakout rooms, just the names of them, but I don't think we have anyone in the UK, and I think the Philippines has changed to another Malaysia. So I think we'll hear 2 Malaysian statements in this session. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but that's fine. We'll just hear double Malaysian views.
I guess it's fine. Like, but yeah, the UK. I guess there is no UK now.
No UK. Yeah,
So
that's fair enough. Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome.
We are back. We are back.
Welcome, the voices of Cami. I'm excited to hear.
I have something really interesting to tell you guys.
Oh,
I'll
amazing.
wait for my statement.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I'm super excited. Going around all the rooms, they look like there was some great work being done and great statements. So
Wow, can't wait to hear.
I'm very much looking forward to everyone. Okay. I think is now everybody back in the room. I would just, before I hand over to Mohamed, I would just like to say I'm very sorry for the confusion. I didn't realize that broadcast disappeared, and I didn't realize the messages were going out to you or not going out to you. So I'm sorry for the confusion, but we got there in the end. Just to let you know, we are just going to have, that was the one, we have changed it. So that was just the one session to prepare these statements. So we're all going to feedback our statements now. And then we are going to break it into rooms for about 5 minutes to discuss again the declaration and then to vote after that. So we aren't going to have a secondary statement session. I hope that makes sense. And I will now hand over to Mohamed.
So yes, thank you so much, Mark. And thanks everyone for your preparations. So now, distinguished delegates, we're opening our first plenary session for today's agenda. Parties and non-state actors will be allowed to deliver their statements. Parties will be delivering statements for 1.5 minutes maximum, while non-state actors will be just delivering a 1-minute statements. No extensions of time are allowed. We would like to apologize in advance because if you will extend in your statement, you will be muted. I kindly ask all parties and non-state actors who would like to deliver a statement to raise their hands in Zoom. And once the chair announces your name, please have the floor and deliver your statement. So now it's time for all parties and non-state actors to raise their hands in Zoom in case they want to deliver a statement in this plenary session. Any more parties or non-state actors?
I couldn't find the raise hand function on my side.
Okay, so just in case for these technicalities, if someone can't find the raise hand function, please type in Zoom raise hand and we will be giving you the floor once the chair announces. So now we'll be starting. So the first party will be India. India, you have the floor for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you to the chair. So I'm the delegate from India, and we from India have 3 statements to make, or 3 points in our statement. The first is in response to the $100 billion declaration. We call for increased financial transparency in the climate fund accounting, as well as a more specific plan in delivering the $100 billion fund to developing countries. We have heard from developed countries pledges such as this in the past, and it has not been followed up in the past, as well as some countries over-reporting their contributions to pledges like this. So we from India would like to call for increased transparency to ensure funds are delivered in a timely manner, and our country can reach our climate goals in time. The second point we'd like to make is to call for an increase or expansion of this fund. $100 billion has been a number that has stayed static over the years, and especially in times like these where the pandemic has hit lesser developed countries heavier than the developed countries. we see a greater need for these funds and a need for these funds to increase so that we can maintain our commitments to our climate goals. The third is to implement penalties or stricter goals for developed countries.
India, I'm sorry, but your time is up. Thank you so much, delegate from India. And now I will give the floor to Malaysia. You have 1.5 minutes to deliver your statement.
Thank you. A very good evening, fellow delegates and honored chair. So we in Malaysia, we share the same sentiments as India. We believe that the funds are actually not being channeled to our country or to the developing country even. And we request that the developed countries to be more transparent and actually walk the talk by giving us the money, because pandemic has affected developing countries in a very huge way. And truth be told, our fund is channeled to COVID-19 relief rather than environment, because it is simply a more pressing thing to do. But in Malaysia, we believe that we are obligated to achieve our NDC of 45% carbon intensity. So we would like to see the money channeled to us as quick as possible. And secondly, we would like to see a framework to ensure that there is equal distribution of the money. So what we mean by this is we hope to see that the money is actually being transferred to.
Yes, thank you, distinguished delegate from Malaysia. Your time was up. And now I would like to give the floor to the USA. USA, you have the floor. USA.
Hello, hi. Can everyone hear me?
Is this USA? Or...
Yes, yes. Can everyone hear me?
Perfect. Yes, we can hear you. Now your time starts.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Ines, and I am a representative from the United States of America. So for this declaration, we do believe that the 100 billion funding from developed nations is necessary, and providing funding to foreign nations to undertake climate action is not only a moral and legal responsibility for developed countries like ourselves, but also a strategic investment in a cleaner and more resilient world. So within our international climate finance for 2021 funding bill, we promised to create a green climate fund where we have directed 811 million in bilateral allocations for environmental programs addressing biodiversity protection, sustainable landscapes, renewable energy, and adaptation. We promise this is given directly to other governments and be used for environmental objectives, and a 5 million increase compared to previous year. And we think we will be able to promise an increase of 5 million every year. Other such initiatives we would like to fund would also be 140 million for the global environment facilities, 1.48 billion in multilateral development banks, 32 million for the Montreal Protocol Multilateral Fund, and 6.4 million in the IPCC and UN framework for UNFCCC. 2021 funding bill. Okay. So we also would like to share our technologies within the automotive industry with developed nations and promise to provide those technical
Thank you, delegates from the United States of America. Unfortunately, the time was up. So any more parties who would like to have the floor? Yes, can you please raise your hand or mention in the Zoom chat? No other, yes, the Malaysia. So Malaysia, you have the floor.
Good evening, delegates. I am Aru from Malaysia. So the 100 billion annually in form of financial support from developed countries would allow a national adaptation plan with greater coordinated implementation to be developed, in this case, Malaysia. Malaysia intends to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions intensity by 45% and by 2030 relative to the emission intensity. And 10% is a condition upon receipt of climate finance technology from developed countries. So during the 10th Malaysian Plan 2011 until 2015, Malaysia has already spent 51 billion for resilience against climate change. And as of 2018, Malaysia's generation mix is only at 0.7% when it comes to renewable. So we demand financial support to be delivered meaningfully fast, and we cannot wait anymore, and provide a just transition for developing countries and vulnerable communities as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malaysia. And now, if we do not have any more parties who would like to speak, so now we'll be giving the floor to non-state actors who just have 1 minute to deliver their interventions. So yes, so now the floor is given to UNICEF. UNICEF, you have the floor.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Fatin representing UNICEF. So as you all know, our aim is to ensure children are an essential part of climate change strategies and disaster response plans. And today we would like to suggest 2 subgroups of children and youth that should be prioritized when distributing this 100 million to the less developed countries. So the first subgroup will be children and youth from low-income groups. So because of the risk associated with them, flood and drought zones often overlap with areas of high poverty and low access to essential services such as water and sanitation. For example, more than half of the children living in areas of high risk of flood live in countries with low access to improved sanitation. So that is the first subgroup. The second would be indigenous youth and children. So despite having contributed little to the greenhouse emissions, the estimated 370 million indigenous adults and children in some 90 countries around the world are at particular risk of facing different consequences of climate change. So
thank you, UNICEF, for your statement. Unfortunately, the time was up. And now we'll be giving the floor to Kami. So Kami, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Nadia from Kami. We do not agree with the declaration. We believe that the money is not enough, given that the climate impacts that we are seeing today is already quite severe. We are seeing a loss and damage happening in major less developing countries, and we are hoping that there would be better, stronger commitment from developed countries to increase their ambitions and their finance to increase the ambitions to climate finance. And we also agree with the other delegates that we would like to see a mechanism of dispersing the money, how it will be evaluated, how it will be monitored. It must be fair and equal. Thank you.
Thank you, Kami, for your intervention. So now we have had all interested parties and non-state actors have delivered their interventions. So any more interventions from a party or a non-state actor? Yes, please raise your hand or mention in Zoom chat. Okay, we do not have any. So thanks to all the parties and non-state actors for their interventions. And this first plenary of this agenda point regarding the declaration is adjourned. And now to Mark.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you everyone very much for your statements. So what I'm going to do now is open the breakout rooms for, I think, just 2 to 3 minutes. I want you to all to reflect on the other statements you have heard, and then we're going to come back into the room and vote on the declaration, whether we think we approve it in its current form or whether we disagree with it. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms for 3 minutes for you to discuss, and then we'll come back, vote, and end the session. Okay, I will open the breakout rooms now. Okay, annoyingly, I was going to try and do a poll to see the vote results, but the poll function on Zoom is now not working. Man, Zoom is not loving me today. So is it possible again if we get people to raise their hands and they can just say whether they agree or disagree with the?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to end the room. So they've got 60 seconds left.
Okay.
Nice one. Thank you, mate.
Okay, so I guess the breakout rooms are up. So since everyone here will be starting the voting session, so welcome again, everyone. And now starts the voting session on the declaration, which states $100 billion from developed countries to less developed countries for climate action. Malaysia, do you have a point of privilege or point of order?
No, we simply want to vote. Is it the right time to vote, or?
Yes, we just didn't start the voting yet. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry.
Thank you. So yes, and now we'll be starting our voting session on the declaration that states $100 billion from developed countries to less developed countries for climate action. As mentioned earlier, non-state actors do not have voting rights. So the only ones who are allowed to vote are parties. So parties, first, before we start the voting procedures, can you please raise your hand to indicate how many parties do we have in this session? Only representatives, one representative from each party should raise their hand. So the other parties, please raise your hands or type in Zoom chat, raise hand. Other parties.
So are there delegates from any of the countries who would also like to vote? If you would like to vote, please raise your hand, just so we can count how many people would like to vote in there.
So we have USA, United States of America, and we have the other Malaysia, which is technicality in Zoom. So yeah, we have the other Malaysia and any other parties. Okay. Okay. India, do we have you in the call? India. Okay, so for now we have three parties. The first Malaysia, the United States of America, the second Malaysia, and India, who did not wish to contribute to the vote. So the voting session will start, and once we mention that you can vote, and we will ask you to raise your hand if you are in favor, and then we will ask all those in favor to lower their hands, and then we will ask you to raise your hands if you are against. Then we will ask you to lower your hands, and then we will ask if you abstain, and then we will ask you to lower your hands, and then we will announce if the declaration passes or not. So should we wait for India or Mark? Should we wait for India? Okay, perfect. So we can wait for 2 more minutes. So I guess India is already here. Okay, perfect. So we have 4 parties with voting rights. The first, Malaysia, the United States of America, the second, Malaysia, and India. So the voting for the declaration on $100 billion from developed countries to less developed countries for climate action now starts. So all parties in favor, please raise your hand in Zoom, either by raising hand or typing in the chat. Okay. So Malaysia 1 in favor, Malaysia 2 in favor. So I kindly ask all parties to lower their hands. So now all parties against the declaration, please raise your hand. Okay, USA. Okay, so all parties, please lower your hands. I will consider that USA already lowered it. So now all parties who abstain regarding the voting on this declaration, please raise your hand. Okay, so we have received an abstain from India. So thank you to all parties involved. So according to this voting, the declaration passes with 2 parties in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstain. The declaration has passed, and we would like to thank all parties involved. And I would like to announce the adjournment of this voting session. Thank you.
Actually, can I ask if Malaysia plus Malaysia, is it still Malaysia, one country?
No, there were 2 countries. They were supposed to be another country, but they just got the same name.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. For the purposes of this session, our world has 2 Malaysias now, just so we can pass things across. Amazing. Everyone, thank you so much. I am sorry for the confusion at the start of the session, but your statements were fantastic. It was so interesting to hear from all of you. And I'm glad that we managed to, pass the statement and we have declared something amazing. I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming along and engaging so well. A huge thank you to Cami, Nadia, and to Mohamed for chairing, and also to Thiva, who were sorting the breakout rooms as we were going. So a huge thank you to everyone for attending. I think I'll pass over to Nadia. I think let's say something.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. I think is it okay if we take a picture of everyone before we leave? But before we go there, I'd like to get some sort of like feedback from every one of you. Not every one of you, like we can have like this debrief session. What is it that makes you think about this COP26? For example, for me personally, when Mohamed, when Iassa cut off, the statement, that was the only time that was given to us. We cannot just like, hey, our speaker, I need give me another 10 minutes to explain this. It's not going to be that way. So imagine the kind of pressure delegates have to face when they are there. So it's really insane. Yeah. So does anyone else have anything to say?
Oh, I think I can share this bit. So would our chair for the simulation like to say something?
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to echo what Nadia said, and maybe I haven't attended a physical COP unfortunately before, but as I was telling Mark earlier, I have attended 2 World Health Assemblies, and unfortunately this is the case actually, that member states always deliver the statements, and sometimes they are literally useless. They are just like speaking and speaking and speaking. And unfortunately, there were some agenda points that even non-state actors did not have even the opportunity to speak. for like several days, even when it was about COVID, which is like the most important issue that's happening these days. So this is something that's happening. And also, I did not want to comment earlier about this, but regarding the timing and the signaling and everything, this does not actually happen. So the president or the chair, they do not give signals regarding the time. So like the delegates need to manage their time while delivering the statements, and make sure, like from experience, like it's very important that since this is the only opportunity for us to mention what is our stance, especially when we are non-state actors, then let's make use of this 1 minute or like whatever the time that we have. Include an evidence-based call to action, not just, okay, people, you need to do this without any evidence before it. Try to work with an evidence-based call to action. Try to include powerful words in your statement to make them like feel that there is actually a trouble, because like some people, especially in terms of climate change, some people still do not believe that we are facing the biggest threat of the century when it comes to climate change, even when it comes to health. So this is also important to mention. And yeah, like statements also need to be a little bit more formal when we get to deliver them. Some like formal words, for example, honorable president, distinguished delegates, or honorable chair, distinguished delegates, and like some powerful or some formal words. But this is what happens in the meetings. And I would also like to mention like the advocacy, that advocacy is very much negatively impacted during COVID. Usually, for example, in physical meetings, we would get the chance to speak with delegates from member states between the corridors and lunch breaks and whatever. But during these online settings, it's very much difficult to reach out to them. So it's very important to try to work on our own advocacy, using our platforms, using our policies, using all the tools that we have. And at the end, we will be heard like in one way or another. So this is very important to work on as well, because still we're not over with COVID, and still we're not over with the online settings. And with the vaccine inequity, we know that there are many people who will not be able to attend this COP. So it's very much important to be able to represent all the voices, especially underrepresented voices in these COVID settings. So this is very important, especially that the climate change has exacerbated so much during this period as well. So yeah, this is like my long feedback. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the feedback, Mohamed, and thank you again for chairing the simulation. Yes, thank you all for the statements. I just had I wanted to pose a question, and I just wanted to ask, if UNICEF and CAMI were able to vote, what would you have voted at the end? Of course, in the real COP, only parties or countries can vote, but I would just be interested to hear. There we go, disapprove. Okay, for UNICEF, too little. Too little, very nice, good to hear. Yeah. Okay.
I thought Fatin, you wanted to say something. You raised your hand just now.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think the takeaway from this simulation is that we need to strategize in communicating our agenda, especially within that limited amount of time, like, and also like knowing our audience, like in the sense of just now, it was on like policymakers and countries and non-state actors, and they all have like what they want, and we are trying to tell them what we want. And also, I think we were trying so hard just now to kind of like tell people why it's important, but I think there should be a balance between telling why is important and also what are we suggesting as well, because we didn't get to like suggest more, which I think we should have. So I guess that's the takeaway, which is like different strategy in communicating our agenda with different communities. In this sense, as policymakers, if we're communicating with communities, is different, and then we're communicating with other NGOs is different. So you need to have that particular strategies and also knowing our audience. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And Cami, could I ask you what you would have thought of the statement? How you would have voted?
Yeah, we would reject the statement, reject the declaration, just because it's not enough, does not show any mechanism how they are going to be monitored, how these funds will be evaluated. I think this is a really important part, and some of the funds that is being channeled are given as could potentially be seen as what is it called again? Yeah, hutang. What is it? Hutang as loans. Sorry, as loans. Just like how the World Bank is giving out money. So there's a very big issue when it comes to this kind of agendas. I think these are being discussed by many different civil society organizations that will come to COP this year. Yeah, that's all from me. I'm really thankful for Mark, from Iassa, and everyone here. Could we take a really fast photo? Who's going to take the photo? Aru, do you want to take the photo, Aru?
Can Deva take the picture? Because half of my screen is cracked, so you can take this picture.
All right, Deva. Okay, hang on. So if you are comfortable in sharing your face, do open your camera. If you don't, it's fine as well. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, please, Deva.
All right, I think Theva's microphone's broken. So I will count down. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Have a safe night. Have a safe day and do take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this.
No worries.
Mark, how can we get the recording and